Today's been a wonderful chance for me to meet so many of the people we've helped. But it's also been a reminder of just how important it is to teach our kids how to be safe. Before we go, I'd like you to meet a man who's dedicated his life to that purpose. When Ed Jagan puts on the good night costume, he's a fairy tale come to life. Once upon a time, there was a knight named Sir Edward. He made it his quest to keep all children happy and safe. But Sir Edward's medieval quest is firmly set in today's reality. Edward Jagan, who began his crime-fighting career as a Washington, D.C. police officer, published A Good Night Story in 1990. Now he travels around the country in full regalia, using his fairy tale format to slay the modern-day dragons of child abuse and abduction.
In the story, the children become heroes because they come forward and tell me, Sir Edward, the Blue Knight, how they became missing. There's only a certain amount of lures that an abductor would have to use on a child, and it's normally just 10 different tricks. So I knew the secret was weave these tricks into the story, and while the children are reading the story or having the story read to them, they're actually learning something.
Jagan's own painful history of child abuse propels his passion to keep kids safe.
When Sir Edward was little Sir Edward, I fell for one of these tricks. It was the G trick, games. Someone that was very close to my family played games with me, and then it started getting bad.
Sir Edward doesn't fight these dragons alone. He's joined by Lady Barbara, the Red Knight. At each presentation, Lady Barbara tells children the good night story.
Think it's a good thing to protect children? Yeah, and the best way that we can protect you is to teach you how to protect yourself.
And they watch a video of dangerous real-life scenarios.
I have a knife, and if you make any noise, I'll use it. Come over to my car.
Help! Is that good?
The highlight of the program is a ceremony where each child is dubbed a knight, and they pledge to begin their own quest to help protect other children.
Lady Kimberly, do you promise to protect all the children, Kimberly? Yes.
And the newly dubbed knights say the quest is one they will take seriously.
I felt stronger as soon as the sword touched my shoulder, and I felt like a knight. When I got knighted, I felt that it was like my duty to keep other children safe as well as myself.
I felt good because I got to help other people and other special people to me.
Sir Edward has knighted some very notable subjects over the years, including Sir Willard Scott and Lady Chelsea Clinton, just two of the thousands in his army of knights fighting the good fight.
The cape started off all black, and as I knighted the children, I received one feather for each child I knighted. 500 went in each side. Right now the cape's a little shabby, but I've been very busy. I've been at war. I have never done a performance anywhere where I haven't seen them swell with enthusiasm and empowerment. When you listen to them talk back and forth about how cool this was and how much it means to them, this is where my paycheck comes from.
And so the quest to protect the children continues. And with Sir Edward lighting the way against the forces of darkness. Now that's good work. On behalf of parents everywhere, and as a parent myself, I want to thank you and all your knights for what you do across this country.
Thank you, John. And the 500,000 good knights across this great land would also like to thank you by giving you this sword. I started 7 years ago knighting children with it, and it's the first sword. It's the Sword of Adam. And I dub you an angel knight, Sir John Walsh.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you. And I want to thank all the parents and the children who shared this special day with us. And I'd also like to thank you, the viewer, because you made these days possible, and this day in particular. The 9 years I've been doing this show, I always say one person can make a difference. And I learned here today, firsthand, one person can really make a difference. Thanks for all your support. I'm John Walsh.
We believe that child safety curriculum ought to be a part of the program of every elementary school, every high school in America.
And at the Phyllis E. Williams Elementary School in Largo, Maryland, child safety is the lesson of the day.
I think for a long time people didn't want to talk about the problem.
Barbara Weber is executive director of the Good Night campaign.
Our children have remained ignorant for too long. So what it's time to do is face it, teach the children what they need to know. Good morning.
It's an innovative child safety program that's being taught for the first time in schools across this Maryland county.
My name is Lady Barbara, and I'm here to make you all knights.
Why the fairy tale approach to such a serious subject with children?
He said, this sword is named tenacity. Well, I think you run the danger of scaring children when you're talking about this subject anyway. So to put it in a fairy tale where it's magical and they become the heroes, you have the chance to teach them something that they'll remember forever. And the wise person stepped forward and said, Your Highness, we told you about the problem of the missing children.
It's an effective mix of fantasy with a real-life message.
So Sir Edward said, whenever a person approaches you, I want you to take a couple steps backwards. Okay? I want you to make the angel wings over your heart and be ready to run like the wind. Now, the angel wings remind you to listen to your heart, because your heart will tell you if you're in danger. If you don't raise their self-confidence. Have you ever had that funny feeling in your stomach, your heart, that something was wrong? If you don't raise their sense of security, given a crisis, they'll panic and freeze instead of running and yelling for help. Do you know how to protect children? Yes! Will you do it? Yes! I knight you into the Order of Good Knights. Will you help us protect all the children?
Yes.
What did you learn today?
I learned that a stranger can be somebody that you know.
And never go with nobody. If somebody tells you to go with them, take 2 steps back and then run and yell help.
Don't wait for the child to be abducted or molested in your neighborhood. Don't wait for your child to be hurt. Make sure that they know everything they need to know and that they're going to be safe, because you're not going to be there when this happens. They're going to be alone, and you have to know that they absolutely have that information.
Sarah Wood, 12 years old, became missing August 1993.
I've agonized since I was 8 years old about this problem. From me being abused by a maid who worked for my family, but I also had friends that were abused and I didn't do anything about it. And they grew up to be the abuser. And I'll never forget that. That's why when I'm in the suit of armor and you see me sweating, well, it's sweat well earned. I feel that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because I always said I'd be back and I'd be talking to the kids. If I didn't have the finances to do it, I would be spreading the message to teach them how to identify the people that are tricking them, and that's what I'm doing now. I took my own life, my adventures, within my police career plus during that 5-year period that I investigated missing children cases, and I rolled it into a fairy tale so we don't frighten children, but I can still get the truth out. But it's basically my true life story. Instead of making it a retired police officer, I made him a retired Blue Knight.
All right, let's go ahead and read kind of where we left off here. As Sir Edward started to climb up the logs to
Good Night Story walks you through the perils of a knight who is following his heart. He's on a divine quest to find the truth. This particular truth is what's happening to the children of spring. He has an angel who guides him, who says the darkness is taking the children. The reader will see woven into the story actual ploys used against children, so we walk you through an abduction. At the end of the story, the children become the heroes of the story because they step forward in the cave behind the waterfall, which is where they're found, and they tell all the tricks that were used on them to get them in this dilemma.
How about you're with your parent in a grocery store and someone talks to you while you stand with your parent? That's safe.
One of the reasons I wrote the book is to open lines of communication about a very sensitive subject with parent and child. When something happens to the child, they need to know who to talk to. I've made it easy for the parent. You open the line of communication through a bedtime story, a fairy tale.
There was a guy that drove around on a motorcycle, and he would try to pick up kids, and one time he came in my neighborhood, and I was playing with one of my friends, and he went to a house and told this little kid to get on his motorcycle, and he'd take him for a ride. And he said he was an uncle or something, and this little kid got on. And
the people that are hurting children are opportunists. They're cruising the streets, and you don't know where they're at. But if you arm your children with the knowledge, and the child takes a step back, this individual that wants to harm them has to go someplace else.
Now let's see if we have enough goodness in our hearts to bring forth the good night. He needs to know that you're ready to greet him.
My goodness, where am I? What is this place? Did you guys call me here? Ed Jagan, or Sir Edward, even in the armor, is terrified when he first walks out on stage. Will they see me as a clown? Because I am not a clown, I'm very serious. But I'm a manifestation. And if they manifest me a clown, I'll have to dance. I don't want to dance. But once I start seeing their eyes get caught up in the character, and they start manifesting me as their destiny, as the truth, come to talk to them.
Bribes, offers of candy, toys, or even Nintendos can be appealing. Do not fall for the simple trick.
Once you arm them with the knowledge, there's nothing to be afraid of. Telling your child not to talk to strangers would scare me, being a child. And I was told this when I was a kid. What you have to do is give them the means to identify the stranger, and that's what the book does. Instead of trying to identify a composite character of a stranger, which could be one of 10,000 characteristics, we give them 10 simple tricks that in order for them to lure you out of your zone of safety, this is what they must do. So it's a lot easier to arm them with the information of 10 tricks than 10,000 faces. Very good. This sword is powerful now. Now I think what we need to do is start bringing up the children to be nice. And I indeed knight you into the divine order of good night. For you will be doing this for many years to come. Thank you, sir. I knight you into the divine order of good night. Take this serious. Because you, I feel, will eventually wear armor similar to this, and you will probably come back to this school. Make sure that you hold this tight, because you have many children to teach, because you are a teacher inside. You know that, don't you? Yes. Good, thank you. I do individual knightings, because I have to talk to each one of them. I have to give them at least a few seconds of me. And I do this by tapping their shoulder with the sword and making them look at me in the eyes. And once I got a hold of their eyes, they've got my soul, and I'm talking to theirs, and they know just how serious this really is. I feel that you will do, indeed, a good knightly job. I knight you into the divine order of good knights, and I ask that you teach all the children, forever and always, to stay safe and identify the tricks that strangers use. Will you do this? You are indeed a good knight. I have a philosophy, whereas if I can get one generation of children to love one another and protect one another, that generation will go into adulthood adopting that same philosophy, and we won't have all these problems.